Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Brief Life Lessons YouTube channel. As always, my goal is to share insights that can add value to your life in as little time as possible. So today's topic is budgeting. Budgeting is something that I view not as a nicety, but a necessity. It's something that I feel you must have. I would potentially argue it's one of the number one things that keeps you poor, and it's preventative of building wealth if you do not have one. So, if you want to take the first steps to saving more money or the first steps toward building long term wealth, I would argue that you absolutely need a budget. You need to know where your money's going. You need to know if your money's going to a necessary expenditure, a discretionary expenditure, or a savings or investment vehicle. So I want to give you a full transparent look at my own budget, and we'll talk about a simple budgeting method as well. So full disclosure, I live with relatives and family right now. So I know that on my line items, I don't have a mortgage payment or a rent payment or a grocery bill. And I am fully cognizant and aware that that is likely not going to be the case for most of you. Most of you will have one of those things, but I did not want to include it on my budget here. I want to work as close as I can to real world numbers. That way I can give you an accurate picture of how I budget, how I view it, and how I break it down for myself. And then obviously you'll have to make the necessary tweaks and adjustments with additional expenditures based on your own personal situation. So the goal ultimately is to break everything down into a per pay figure. So I am paid bi-weekly. Some of you may be paid monthly. Some of you may be paid twice a month. Some pay plans pay every 15th of the month and 30th of the month, or every 1st of the month and every 15th of the month. But first thing first is, if you're a salaried employee, know how often you get paid, and your goal is to work everything in your budget down to a bi-weekly figure, that column B figure. So if you know those bi-weekly amounts, you'll be able to plug them right in and work right off of those. Some expenditures, you're going to know a monthly bill. So, car payment, and I have student loan, phone bill, and Spotify. I know that those bills are monthly for me. So the thing is, I want to work those monthly amounts into biweekly amounts. There's not a clean conversion. If you're paid 2 times a month, either on the 15th or 30th, you can obviously just take this monthly number, divide it by 2, and that'll get you here. I would say it's a little different for biweekly, and if you want the most accurate number, I would recommend this here. Take your monthly amounts, multiply them by 12 to get those annual amounts, and then take those annualized amounts and divide them by 26 to come out with your biweekly amount. That way, even though those bills don't come monthly or annually, you'll be setting aside those amounts. You'll have those amounts set aside each time you get paid, and that way you'll have enough to cover those expenditures when they come due. So that's the goal. Break everything down here. Things that you know monthly or annually, break them back toward this category. This is where we want to know. So the way I have it set up is your gross pay. We're going to look at your paycheck deductions, which will bring you to your take-home pay value. And then from your take-home pay value, we'll look at your expenditures and savings. And then I have this last column here called remaining. So this figure is just your gross pay, and it's just going to be subtracting out all of your line items. And the goal is going to be to get this number as close to zero as possible. We want to have every dollar assigned to something. We want to know what that money is doing, what that money is for. So we want to get this number as close to zero as possible. And we'll just kick it off from the top. I'll start giving you some of my numbers so that you can see how some of this plays out. So I have a simple IRA through my workplace. Many of you, that would be the equivalent of a 401k at your workplace. Or if you maybe work for a nonprofit, it might be a 403b, but some sort of employee-sponsored retirement account. This is the one that is available to me. So in this account, I am putting away this much each time, and that comes out of my gross pay. Reason being is I've done some math up front, and that'll get you right up to the $13,500 That is the maximum amount you can contribute to a simple IRA for calendar year 2021. That may have jumped up just a little bit for calendar year 2022. I'm not certain, but the previous max out value was 13.5. So to get as close as I can without going over, I'm putting this amount away bi-weekly in that employee sponsored account. This category, I just have it as a miscellaneous bundle. So this is Social Security, Medicare, state and local taxes, and then I have etc. I think I have a very small portion of each of my paychecks going out toward a nonprofit or United Way type deal. So this number is just going to pretty much be plug and play based on your taxes and what you owe for Social Security and Medicare. So that's just going to come right out of your gross pay, and it's just going to be a plug number. Federal tax, this is going to be an amount based on your tax withholding that you have set up with your employer. So this amount for me comes out to this figure here. And again, you'll see all these things right on your pay stub. So this is just coming, I'm just taking this number right off my pay stub and putting it in my budget. Taking this number right off my pay stub, putting it in my budget. And the same thing here for healthcare. I am a single person on our employee-sponsored health plan, and it is a $45 deduction per pay to be health covered as a single on our plan. So now you can see that I'm broken down. I've got my gross pay, less my deductions, and here's what I take home. This is what hits my bank account every week. When I get a notification from my bank that says you've been paid, this is the amount in it every time. So from there, I just want to work and put all of my money to use. I don't want to have money freely floating around. So again, Roth, I did some math up front. This is the amount you can contribute to get up to that $6,000 annual limit. If you go over this number, you'll be over that $6,000 annual limit, and you don't want to do that. So that's how much I'm contributing there. This is an amount that I am giving for church. If you have other giving, or you give to a nonprofit, you want to budget that in as necessary, go ahead. So that's something that's important to me, so I do that. Brokerage. So this is an investment vehicle, just a traditional non-tax advantaged investment vehicle. I'm going to come back to this number, and I'll explain why I have it third on this list a little bit later. And I'll come back to that number because that's going to be a plug number at the end, and I'll talk about that later. So car payment, I know that number. It's what's being automatically withdrawn. It's what I agreed to when I signed the paperwork to buy the car. So that's my car payment. Again, that's one that I know monthly. So when I plug in this figure, this annualized number is that figure right here times 12. And then this annualized figure right here divided by 26 is this number. So I'm breaking it back to that bi-weekly number. That's what we want to see. That's how much I know I need to set aside to be able to cover my car payments. So miscellaneous spend, again, this is kind of like a blanket category for me. This is where you have a little bit of flexibility built in. So for me in my life right now, this would be if I want to buy some of my own personal grocery, or if I want to go out to eat at a restaurant, or if I want to make a discretionary purchase, if I want to buy a new pair of shoes or anything like that. This is just that miscellaneous spend. So I don't have a specific line item, but I'm going to set aside some money for that category. So for me, what I did is I found out the figure saved bi-weekly that will get you about $250 a month. So I have $250 a month set aside for myself in discretionary income. That's money I can spend on whatever I choose to do so. Again, you can change that number based on your budget and your flexibility. If you think, man, $250 a month for flexible spending and discretionary spending is too tight, you can blow that number up a little bit. Maybe make it $500. I don't know, make it personal and make it doable for you. So this number has been doable for me, $250 a month. So it's the number that I've been working off of, and it's a good amount for discretionary spend for me. Gas, fortunately for me, this is what it breaks down to bi-weekly. I've kind of done some mileage tracking, and based on the fuel economy of my vehicle, I also live very close to work. So again, this number, I know it's going to be personal, and it could be a large discrepancy in value from what I show here, depending on the fuel economy from your vehicle and your commute for work. Car insurance, that's something I pay semi-annually. So I took that figure that I got semi-annually and I multiplied that by 2 to come out to the annual figure, which I have here. Student loan, again, that's a monthly payment. That's something that I have set up based on my refinancing of that loan. So that's a number that I can just plug right in. Phone bill, same business as usual. It's just a number I'm going to plug right in, knowing the monthly bill. Tax withholding, this is a category that I have set up based on some estimation I've done for myself on what my federal tax bill will be come year end. So I just set aside an additional portion of monies so that I can use those monies to cover my tax liability at year end. You could also have additional tax withheld from your gross pay. You can set that up with your employer. You can set up additional withholdings. I just have it down here. It's just a personal thing. It's just a preference. And then Spotify, I know that's $9.99 with tax, and there's the monthly bill for that. And that's where we get. So again, miscellaneous spend and brokerage, I would call these plug accounts. So I would have my chart probably set up like this first. I would probably leave that blank. And then you can see once I've covered my necessary expenditures and the discretionary expenditures I choose to so have on here, I have $287.25 left at the end. So I can plug those into my two values here. Again, if your brokerage value is 0, that's not the worst thing in the world, like especially in this situation here, because I'm already putting a lot away in savings and retirement here and here. I'm maxing out both of these annualized figures. But again, I want to be really aggressive with my investment while I'm young. And I have a video about that, so I'll drop a card for that video up in the section of this video. I'll leave a card for that. But I want to be aggressive with investing, so for me, I want to put in more than 0. But if you did put in 0 here, then you could obviously have $287.25 per pay going toward discretionary miscellaneous spend, which gives you about $625 a month for discretionary spend instead of the $250 that I use monthly. So that'll get you a little bit more discretionary spend. If you want a little bit more flexibility, I recommend having a miscellaneous line as a line item. It gives you some little bit of flexibility. Again, for me, I found that through tracking of expenditures that this figure ends up being pretty good for myself in my current situation. So I budget about $250 a month for personal spend. We can see our last plug line, brokerage, that leaves the plug, which I use to have full allocation. Now I don't have any money left over. I think this 6-cent delta is coming from some of my values are being plugged in this column and then calculated. Some of my numbers are being put in here and then calculated, and some of my numbers are being put in here and calculated. So it has to do with that multiplication of 12 and the division by 26 is where you're getting this small delta. But this is a look at my real world numbers. And as you can see, it's as close to 0 as possible. And again, what that has done, what bringing this as close to 0 as possible has allowed me to do is allowed me to get a better understanding of my expenditures. And it's also allowed me to save more. Because when I first started saving and investing, I was just doing so arbitrarily. I said, I make, about this much, and I think I can save about $400 a month, and, that'll be enough. That'll be good. $400 is a good amount, But in my mind, it was just some arbitrary figure that I knew I could save. But when I really mapped this thing out, I realized that I can save this and this and this. Those are all going to investment vehicles. And that's this much per month. Again, I know that I don't have a mortgage. I know that I don't have a grocery bill. But the point I'm trying to make is if you just arbitrarily assign $400 to your investments, you might be leaving money on the table, more money that you could get in and invested that can help you build wealth down the road. So I have my rows already set up this way, but you could adjust the order of these with a simple filter and sort function on either Excel or Google Sheets. But as you can see, within each category, I have my numbers broken down by largest to smallest based on percentage of gross pay. So these are all of my deductions before take-home pay, and I have them in order of largest to smallest. Likewise, I have the same setup based on my take-home pay expenditures. I have them largest to smallest. So why would you want to do that? I think it really helps if you're looking for opportunities to save money. And what I mean by that is you can go down line item by line item and look for opportunities where you can cut expenditures. So obviously, simple IRA, this is an elected amount. That could be zero. I could take that down if I wanted to, or things felt financially tight, or like I needed more cash on hand. I could drop that number down to zero. That's an elective contribution. This number, you can see it's going to be hard to really move the needle on that. That's a lot of just stuff I owe. That's stuff I have to pay as a citizen of the United States. I have to have a deduction for Social Security, Medicare, state, and local taxes. So not really able to adjust that figure too far. But again, I think organizing in this manner helps you look at your list because you want to take your highest level expenditures and work on those first and then dig into your lower level expenditures. It doesn't make sense for me to look for a cheaper, music provider service before I look for a cheaper car insurance plan because that car insurance plan costs me $970 annually, whereas Spotify only costs me $125 annually. So you want to look at your largest line items first and ask yourself, is there any way I can effectively reduce those? And that'll help you become a more effective budgeter. Again, I hope this video was helpful for you guys. I hope seeing some actual figures and real world numbers broken out and really worked back toward that bi-weekly figure. I hope that helps you guys being able to visualize that. And if you can build a similar template and it helps you out, I mean, that would be very good to do. And again, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, drop a like if this was insightful. Leave a comment if there's something you have a question about or something you disagree about. And hit that subscribe button and the bell notification icon if you'd like to be alerted for new content. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great day.